How good is it, really, to be a sect master? Today, you're about to find out because you are Lin Han, 200 years in the master's robes of the Azure Cloud sect. 10,000 disciples bow when you pass. Your word is law for 1,000 miles. Sounds like paradise. So let me show you the books and the one signature nobody in this world is allowed to argue with. Start with your morning. Before the sun clears the eastern ridge, before you've had tea, you're already at your desk. The brush is wet. The ledger is open. The first line of every single day is the same. The Great Mountain Shielding Formation, those luminous blue rings wrapped around the peaks that everyone below admires, burns 30 low-grade spirit stones every hour. Not during attacks. Not when threatened. Every hour. Stand before those rings long enough and you feel the drain in your marrow, like blood leaving a wound that never closes. 360 days a year, 24 hours a day. The formation does not know what a holiday is. It only knows hunger. Then come the line items. Elder stipends. Outer disciple housing. Spirit herbs worth more than a mortal village earns in a year, ground into pills that keep your core formation elders from aging out of usefulness. The scripture pavilion's preservation arrays humming around the clock so 10,000 scrolls don't rot into mulch. Then the spirit beast stables, beasts that must be fed ambient chi daily because starving them risks a berserk event that would punch through half the outer barracks before anyone responds. And that's before you account for catastrophic failure. A single courtier defensive array collapsing costs a decade of operating funds to replace. Every edge case clause in your maintenance agreements is priced in stones you'll never see again. A great sect is a city that never turns a profit. Your fingers press into your temples. The tea goes cold. Gold means nothing here, chi is the only currency that matters, and you are hemorrhaging it through 100 open wounds before breakfast. Sounds unsustainable. So how has your sect survived 2 centuries of you? Because the same hand that signs the treasury drains holds one other pen, and that pen writes a number nobody in this world can challenge. Here's the valve. When a disciple dies on a sect mission, killed at a border skirmish, lost in a beast hunt, dead in a territorial dispute, the sect pays a death pension to the family. That pension is tiered by the realm the cultivator had achieved at the time of death. 20 low-grade stones for a chi condensation disciple. 90 for foundation establishment. 400 for a core formation elder, though that tier is almost never invoked, too rare, too scrutinized, too many eyes on a body of that rank. Now. The corpse. When a cultivator dies violently, their meridian network, the internal map that proves their realm, collapses within hours. The body goes cold, the chi pathways dissolve, and there is no living physician and no surviving technique that can verify what realm that body held when it was alive. The Elders' Council has a protocol for disputed deaths, technically. It requires 3 core formation physicians and a joint divination array to attempt a reading from the remains. But it costs 60 stones to assemble, takes a full lunar cycle, and still returns only a probable range. When the margin of error is the entire gap between one realm and the next, the protocol is theater. The only record left standing is the mission report. And the mission report carries one signature. Yours. A chi condensation disciple who dies in the exact moment of attempting breakthrough, whose meridians were mid-formation, half-formed, not yet locked into the new realm, that body tells no tale. The shift is invisible. The breakthrough was neither confirmed nor denied. It simply didn't finish. Which means the realm at the time of death is, legally, institutionally, a matter of your judgment. And your judgment is the signature on the scroll. 20 stones for chi condensation. 90 for foundation establishment. The difference between those two numbers is 70 stones, and the only thing separating them is the angle of your brush. But you didn't learn that overnight. The first time you bent that line, you weren't even trying to steal anything. You were trying to be kind. 191 years ago. You'd been master for 9 years, still young by sect standards, still trying to be the leader the founding patriarch wanted. Still believing the chair was a duty, not a machine. An outer disciple named Wei Chang died at the Grey Ridge boundary. The boy had been on the cusp. His meridians were mid-transition into foundation establishment when something, a beast, a skirmish, a collapse, the report was never clear, killed him. The body came back unrecognizable. His father, Elder Pang, a man who had given 40 years to the sect's alchemy division, knelt in your study. He didn't ask for money. He asked for one thing: sign the boy's burial tablet at foundation establishment. Not for the pension, his family didn't need 90 stones. He wanted his son's spirit tablet to read the realm the boy would have reached if he'd lived long enough to finish the step. You signed it. Your hand was steady. Your conscience was clean. It was mercy. But here's what you didn't expect. The moment that signature hit the registry, the 70-stone gap between the 20 the family received at the Honest G condensation tier and the 90 allocated at Foundation establishment opened a door you hadn't known existed. Death pensions for disputed realm casualties aren't drawn from the Sect's Standard Casualty Fund, they're drawn from the Intersect Reconciliation Fund, a diplomatic reserve you control directly. Nobody audits it against the casualty scrolls because it's diplomatic spending. The money came out. 70 stones sat in your discretionary account. Wei Cheng's family received their 20. Nobody was shortchanged. Nobody complained. You stared at those 70 stones for 3 days before you understood what they were. Not a mistake. A valve opened with mercy, the only reason you could look at it without flinching. One signature. One grieving father. 70 stones you didn't ask for, and a number you've never once added up across the years since. You've done this 4 times a year, on average, for 191 years. Only specific cases qualify. The disciple has to have died mid-breakthrough, the body has to be unrecoverable enough that no second examiner can contest the realm. Not every death gives you cover. You wait for the right ones. The messy ones. The ones where the question, what realm was he, has no answer. Anyone can prove otherwise. 70 stones per case. 4 cases a year. 280 stones annually, a trickle, not a flood, deliberately small enough that no single entry raises a flag. But 191 years is a long time. 280 times 191 is 53,480 low-grade spirit stones. You have never once added that number up. Not because you're afraid of it, because it doesn't exist as a number. It lives inside thousands of individual ledger entries, each one a routine line item buried in diplomatic spending, each one denominated in language no auditor questions: border restitution, intersect good faith disbursement, emergency negotiation fund. None of those lines says pension fraud. All of them are true in the sense that the money did move through those accounts. It just stopped, very quietly, in yours. Your cave abode is nicer than a core formation elder's. Your private collection of spirit herbs would fund an outer disciple barracks for a decade. Nobody asks how a sect master who burns 30 stones an hour just keeping the lights on can afford a library that rivals the scripture pavilion. Because nobody has ever sat down with 280 stones a year across 191 years and done what you have refused to do, multiply. And the dead are only half of what your signature controls. The living pay better, and they pay in something more useful than stones. The same hand, the same master seal that ranks the dead also governs the living, and both registries are for sale. Take the mission roster. Every season, dozens of disciples rotate through border patrol assignments, the same patrols that produce your 4 usable cases a year. Those patrols are dangerous, and the inner disciples of powerful elders have a strange habit of never appearing on them. Elder Zhao pays 3 bottles of Foundation tier pills to have his niece reassigned from border patrol to a spirit herb gathering run is safer, better paid, no chance of coming home in pieces. Elder Lu offers a grade 6 spirit sword to move her grandson into a courier posting on the southern safe roads. The bribes arrive as gifts, tributes, courtesies between colleagues. You record them as transfers of sect resources between divisions. Clean language. Dirty arithmetic. Every name pulled off the border roster doesn't disappear, it gets replaced. Usually by an outer disciple with no elder sponsor, no family leverage, no one to write a letter. A name that won't be missed. A body whose meridian collapse, if it happens, won't prompt a second inquiry. You see the shape of it. You don't just skim from the dead. The same pen that signs the burial tablets also signs the patrol rosters, and the rosters decide who walks the road where a usable body might be found. You are not simply profiting from death. You are selecting whose death is profitable. Not by name. Never by name. But the filter does the work. Remove the protected, the sponsored, the connected. Whoever remains on that border road is, by definition, the kind of disciple whose disappearance will be quiet enough to use. The living pay in weapons, pills, marriage alliances, and spirit stones. And the dead pay in the 70 stone gap between what they were and what your brush says they almost became. With that kind of machinery running, you'd think the chair was worth holding. Except every year you sit in it, the reason you can never leave gets heavier, and it isn't duty anymore. The old version of the story, the one carved into the entrance hall, says a wise sect master rules until he finds a successor, hands over the seal, and walks away to cultivate in peace. You believe that for about a century. Because the throne isn't a seat. It's a firewall. The Reconciliation Fund, the valve feeding you 53,000 stones, answers to one authority, the sitting sect master. It is not audited. It is not cross-referenced with casualty records. As long as you sit in this chair, no one has the standing to open those books. The day you hand over the seal, the new master inherits everything, including the authority and the legal right to audit your accounts. One afternoon, one junior scribe, 2 ledgers, 53,480 stones collapses into a single number that hangs you. You can't leave. Not because the sect needs you. Not because 17 elders and their deputies would tear each other apart over the chair. Not because the Grand Elder sealed behind his chamber door for 60 years will emerge into a realm so far above yours that your title becomes a joke. Not because war between 2 peer sects costs 3 to 5 generations to heal and losing a single elder burns a decade of income in an afternoon. Not because 2 centuries on this throne cost you every realm advancement you should have made, while rogue cultivators with no sect, no chair, quietly passed you. You can't leave because the moment you do, every signature becomes evidence. Every burial tablet, every roster transfer, every border realm judgment, all of it becomes a question someone else answers. With your head. The old proverb says the higher the seat, the shorter the leash. But the leash was never duty. The leash is paper. Ink. 191 years of signatures, each individually harmless, collectively fatal, and the only thing keeping them quiet is the hand still holding the pen. The sect master who can't let go doesn't die of old age. He dies because the chair was never a throne, it was an archive with a lock. There's a prison built for exactly that kind of fool. You're about to see it from the inside. Codex Law of institutions, the higher the seat, the shorter the leash. But the leash was never duty or honor. It was paper. The higher you climb, the more signatures bear your name, and every signature is a lock that only holds while you're the one still sitting at the desk. Walk away, and every lock you ever turned becomes evidence. Sound familiar? Next entry, what does a prison built to hold someone who can shatter walls with one punch actually look like? You're about to find out from the inside. Thanks for being here.